I'm sorting through my wedding album. What pictures do you want to take? Like I really wanted something to remind me of my failed marriage to Sherry. I was about to ask if she had any where she was kissing my ass, but changed my mind. Damn pictures. That was the big issue between her and me, the pictures, not to mention I hated to argue. Sherry had an internal computer with links to every event that had happened since we'd met. She had a super base of data available in microseconds to use against me when we argued. She remembered things to throw back at me, even though I couldn't even remember doing it or saying it. It wasn't that I was afraid to duel with her, I just thought it was pointless. When faced with a problematic situation, Sherry would change the subject so quickly and so many times that it would take me a week to figure out what she had said. If I hesitated, all hope of getting an answer was gone. When I was lucky enough to follow her chatter, she would start crying and accuse me of hurting her. It always turned into a stalemate. For me, of course. "Brian, did you hear me? What pictures do you want to take?" she asked from the other room. I continued to silently pack my personal belongings into boxes. It was another sign of how badly our relationship had deteriorated. My refusal to answer her was deeper than just not wanting to see those damn pictures. I had lost trust in Sherry, and my mind was telling me she was teasing me. She wanted to turn the court-ordered division of property into an excuse to argue with me. The judge ordered that all of our property be divided in half in the divorce. It seemed fair and civilized to me at the time. Now that I'm here, well, it's not easy to even think about the consequences. How can you divide love? Can heartache be shared? I can't deny that I love Sherry. I love her too much if that's even possible. She was everything to me and at the same time a woman I couldn't handle mentally. She drove me crazy. She just never could admit that she might be guilty of something. I think the word sorry is even part of her vocabulary. After 6 years of marriage, I finally gave up. I got tired of the endless competition and threw in the towel. You probably think Sherry and I fought all the time. No, we didn't. Sometimes all it took was a few words like, "You're overreacting." And those words drove a stake through the heart of our marriage. Maybe I overreacted to the situation, but I was tired, angry, and hurt all at the same time at the time. I felt a deep sense of disrespect for me because of Sherry's carelessness. I guess I should explain. Sherry and I are very different in personality. Sherry is very outgoing and friendly, while I am reserved and shy. If you want to know anything about her, just ask her. She is an open book. On the other side, you will find the opposite. I am very zealous about my privacy and consider my business exactly as my own. I never share secrets. Some time ago, probably over a year ago, Sherry and I had a very pleasant evening. It was particularly romantic with wine and a candlelight dinner. We barely made it home before we were already on the same page with each other. We made love in a spectacular manner, and it was far from typical for us. After several hours of particularly slow foreplay and lovemaking, we lay in bed, satisfied. Releasing myself from Sherry's embrace, I went to get a bottle of wine. On my way back to the bedroom, the new digital camera I had recently purchased caught my eye. The mood was playful, and I grabbed the camera along with the wine. Sherry was quite willing to pose for some very sexy and intimate pictures for me. The more shots I took, the more turned on she became. It wasn't long before the camera was put aside, and we passionately made love again. Later, Sherry used the bathroom, and when she returned from it, the camera was in her hands. Although not as eager as she was, I posed for a few pictures that she took. Sherry was, to say the least, extremely excited about the whole photographic foreplay, as she called it. The idea of capturing our passion seemed to drive her crazy. Sherry got on top of me like a cowgirl and began a very seductive and slow ride. We had always been very compatible in bed, but this night was far better than anything we had ever dared to do. To my surprise, she continued to hold the camera in one hand and took the most candid pictures. Sherry was now riding me like a demon, getting wilder and wilder with each click of the camera shutter. The next morning, I found Sherry looking at the photographic evidence of our previous night. At first, we were in the living room, but soon we were back in bed. Sherry could barely keep her hands off me. I had never seen her act so aggressively before. Sherry usually preferred not to have sex in the mornings. This was a wild and enjoyable weekend. The sex and intimacy was wonderful for both of us. By midweek, things returned to our normal loving existence. I hadn't forgotten about the photos, but I didn't think much of them, not even considering what they might ultimately mean. A week passed. I think it was a Thursday. I came home from work at the usual time, entering the house through the kitchen as usual, and immediately heard chatter and giggles. Sherry has quite a few friends, so I didn't pay much attention to the noise. I opened my beer in the kitchen and wandered toward the study. I figured I should stay away from this bachelorette party and try to relax a little. As soon as I entered the study, my mouth fell open and the beer bottle fell at my feet from my momentarily weakened hand. Sherry and her two friends huddled around the computer watching the slideshow. I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. I was very angry, but also embarrassed, more so than I had ever been in my life. Sherry, being the open person she is, smiled and waved at me like they were watching Disney cartoons. I could see that she wasn't the least bit shy about sharing our most private and intimate moments with her friends. It took her a few seconds to read the horror on my face. After her friends left, we had a long talk about what had happened. I didn't yell and kept my cool, knowing that I needed to focus on the problem I had. Sherry seemed to have no way of knowing what was so wrong with what she had done. She was proud of the pictures and didn't mind at all showing them to her friends. At this point, you have to remember how much of a reserved person I am to understand how I felt at the time. It wasn't so much the fact that she did it, but the lack of respect on her part for my feelings. I tried to explain it to her several times, but apparently my calm demeanor prevented her from fully understanding the situation from my perspective. I should have discharged both barrels at her, but I was determined not to let this turn into one of those fights that never solves anything. In the end, she promised not to show those pictures or talk about them to anyone else. It didn't go the way I wanted it to. I never got what I needed out of our conversation. And what I needed was her apology. We didn't even come close to that. Sure, I could have told her straight up, but think about it. What's the point? It's like buying yourself a Christmas present. It's not from the heart. For about a week, I struggled with getting over this situation. I chickened out and took the easy way out. Sherry ended up learning nothing, and I wasn't satisfied with the outcome. I vowed to myself not to let things slide the next time we disagreed, and let our next misunderstanding go quietly into the night. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before the final round began. Sherry and I were at a family gathering at my sister's house. It was a backyard barbecue thrown in honor of my dad's birthday. I was looking forward to seeing the family and the accompanying drinks with my dad and Ray, my sister's husband. The party started off well enough, and the day promised to be great. I played with my nephews and had a nice time with my mom. Sherry helped my sister Lindsay with the cooking, and I watched them talk and laugh. We all enjoyed a great meal and then got to work cleaning up. When all the dishes were washed, we joined Mom and Dad in the backyard for drinks. The evening was cool, and it was nice to sit and talk about old times. Lindsay had become addicted to sipping wine over the years, and tonight seemed to be on the right track. She gave me a sly smile every now and then, and I could tell something was boiling in the kettle, but I couldn't quite figure out what yet. We'd always been pretty close to each other growing up, and I knew that look in her eyes. Mom was telling a cute story about Lindsay's graduation party, about how beautiful she was in her dress and that she looked like a princess. I even saw Lindsay's face turn red as Mom talked about her precious daughter's big night. I involuntarily thought, if only Mom knew the whole story and what I saw from my bedroom window that night. I got home a little before Lindsay did, and was in my room getting ready to jump into bed when I heard some kind of car pull into the driveway of our house. I went to the window to look and saw Lindsay's boyfriend parked there, delivering her home. A second later, the headlights in the car went out. I was about to forget about it and go to bed when I realized they had started kissing. My second-floor window had a great view of them through the windshield. It all seemed innocent enough at first, but right before I wanted to turn away, I saw my sister's head go under the steering wheel. "What the fuck, Lindsay?" I had a perfect view, so I continued to watch. It was pretty graphic. She was shaking her head up and down like it wasn't the first time. It went on like that for a few minutes, and finally she stopped. I thought the show was about to end, but then I saw them move to the back seat. I lost the view from my seat, but soon my sister's legs were sticking out of the car window. The thought slipped out of my head just in time for me to hear the end of my mom's story about how she hadn't slept that night either. Lindsay was flaming red, as we all had a pretty good laugh about being caught, and she still didn't know it. I was glad that for balance my mom didn't bring up my antics. My sister swallowed the good-natured taunts, but I had a feeling she wasn't happy to be the object of these jokes of ours. And it was evident in her eyes that someone else was about to experience embarrassment. She drank another glass of wine, and when the conversation died down, she pulled the pin and threw the grenade that had ended my marriage. "So, Bree, when do we get to see the pictures?" she asked shyly. "What pictures, sis?" I asked, as if I didn't know what she meant because I didn't. "Oh, you know, the ones Sherry told me about," she teased me. I looked at Sherry and saw the smile slip off her face. Damn those eyes of hers. I jumped to my feet and was only a second away from hitting a woman for the first time in my life. I wasn't even embarrassed this time. I was frothing at the mouth at my wife for breaking our agreement to never talk about those damn pictures again. I threw the beer bottle at the fence in my heart and watched it shatter, just like the trust I once had in Sherry. "Brian, it was just a joke." Lindsay tried to correct the situation. "Stay out of it! You have no idea what you're talking about," I spat out. Sherry cringed, and that's when my father intervened in an attempt to get the situation under control before it got worse. "Come on, son, calm down. You're overreacting." I immediately blushed. "Overreacting? You think so? In that case, stay for the rest of the show because you haven't seen anything yet," I boiled over. "I want you all to laugh at this now because tomorrow it won't be so funny." "Sherry, I'm tired of you and the fact that you don't care about anything," I said indignantly. "Brian, can we please talk about this in private?" Sherry mumbled, stammering. "Why? You don't seem to want anything about our lives to be private, do you? Come on, baby. Let's share that part of it with everyone, too." "Geez, Brian, you're making a big deal out of nothing," she started to defend herself. "Yeah, you're right. Promises mean nothing to you. It's all for nothing. Now listen to what I'm about to say, very carefully, so you don't misunderstand. It's over between us. It's over, and I want to leave you. I can't take it anymore. Only a divorce and no more arguments. You've won!" "Is that enough for all of you?" I asked, looking around at the stunned faces. When I got home, the phone rang. I let it ring all it wanted. It only took me 10 minutes to pull myself together. A life full of hopes and dreams was hastily thrown into my suitcase. As I was leaving the house, I ran into Sherry. "Brian, please don't do this," she pleaded. "It's already done," I replied coldly. "Damn it, what the hell do you want me to do? Just tell me what to do," she pleaded. "You've already done enough for one day." "Let's just forget about it," I told her as I walked past her. I felt really shitty, but I did what I had to do for the sake of preserving my own sanity. I never wanted it to end this way. Hell, I never wanted our marriage to end at all. I always thought we could grow old together. But as it turned out, those were just dreams. The fact that Sherry never once apologized to me just screamed for itself. How could she be so selfish and insensitive? Or is it denial? I mean, if you don't feel guilty, you don't need to apologize. I could have explained it to her. Explain what she did and what she needs to do to make it right. But would that fix the core of the problem? I don't think so. Sherry had to see it for herself and admit it to herself first. Otherwise, she would keep blaming me, and I wasn't going to take that role this time. The motel room was cold and impersonal, just like my life. I sat down with a bottle for courage and tried to pull myself together thinking about it. My emotions were shifting like the tides. I was right. I was wrong. I missed Sherry terribly, but the ball was on her side. I drew a line in the sand, but I was sure that under certain circumstances, I'd be willing to try to salvage what was left of our marriage. If Sherry could convince me that she was truly remorseful and would work to regain my trust, we could work things out. On the other hand, I was also convinced that given her past, we as a couple were past it. You can call it pride or whatever you want. But I wasn't going to be the willow that bent this time either. I had to stand up for what was right for me, or I would never be able to look at myself as a man, and neither would she. If Sherry thought for a moment that she could wipe her feet on me, she would forever stop respecting me. And that was the problem. Without respect on her part and trust on mine, our marriage was doomed. After sitting alone for a few hours, I looked down and saw that I was still babysitting the first glass of whiskey I had poured myself. I decided to get drunk and try to sleep, despite the terrible loneliness I knew the night ahead would bring. It would be so easy to go home to my wife. But what would I gain in the end? A week, a month, maybe even a year. And then sooner or later it would happen again. You see, the lack of trust was already building up. Every time I thought about how stupid it all was, I realized that I had taken the first step off a cliff, and it wasn't up to me how I would land. I had only one choice: wait for the magic parachute to open or collapse face first into reality. The next day I woke up tired. Lack of sleep and anxiety almost brought me to my knees. I checked my cell phone for messages and my inbox was full. The only thing I responded to was a call from Mom and Dad. "Dad, I'm so sorry for putting you and Mom through all that last night. I don't want to hear it now, son. The important thing is that you're okay." I could hear the genuine concern in his voice. "I'm fine. Tell your mom not to worry," I assured him. "I really don't want to talk about this right now, but I'll come back in a few days and try to explain everything to you." "Okay, Brian, I'll see you then. Your sister's right here with me. She wants to say a few words to you." "Daddy, no!" Lindsay was on the line before I could stop him. "Brian, where the hell are you? Sherry's going crazy without you." She went on and on about how sorry she was. I had nothing to say to her except to politely ask her to mind her own business, but that had no effect. She begged and pleaded until I couldn't stand it and agreed to meet with her. Now that we were face to face, I still had nothing to talk to her about until she said those damn words again. "Brian, listen to me. You're overreacting. Aren't you making a big deal out of this? First of all, it's my business. And what makes you think it's no big deal? Tell me, sister. Tell me." Sherry broke her promise to me. "It's not what she told you, it's what she wanted to tell you. We had an agreement never to talk about those pictures again," I blurted out. "Oh my God, Brian, I'm your sister. She didn't put them on the internet. Jesus, Bree, do you think it's worth losing the best thing that ever happened to you because of your stupid little secret?" she insisted. "Just think about it for a second. Let me help you two figure this out," she pleaded. "Just stay out of it. You have no idea." Yeah. Sherry told me something she shouldn't have told me. And now you're all hysterical. Gosh, it's not that big a deal. Just one little secret. And now you think your life is over? Let's try to clear the air. You can't understand how one tiny secret shared by family members can make any difference. Is that what you want to know in the end? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Chuckles. Just so we're absolutely clear. Tell me, for example, if Sherry told me something about Mom or Dad, or maybe even you, would it be a big deal if that information somehow leaked to someone in the family? No, of course it wouldn't. It might cause a little embarrassment, but It wouldn't be as big a problem as you imagine. So, if I told your husband, Ray, that you had a casual affair on the side and your last child might not be his— Stop! I think I know what you're talking about. I nodded. It was the only time in my entire life that I'd ever seen Lindsay at a loss. Her face turned ashy as my words pierced her to the bone. Lindsay didn't just start crying. She reached stage 3 without stopping at the first 2. I felt bad, but how else could she learn to stay out of my life? As you can guess, it took me hours to heal the wounds I had inflicted on Lindsay. I assured her that if Ray ever found out about her affair, I wouldn't be the one to tell him. I also made it clear that I was disappointed in her, but would not judge. It's none of my business. What she did was between her and Ray, even if I didn't approve of it. She saw why I did what I did, as clear as crystal now. Never again did she interfere in my affairs. Mom, Dad, and Sherry's parents were a different story. They seemed to hound me around the clock day and night just to get me to stop being angry. Each of them apologized to me for Sherry at least 100 times. Deciding I had given Sherry enough time to calm down, I went to meet her. She tried to hide her tired, worn look, but it was still visible. Now I could recount our conversation, but honestly, you might get confused by it. It started with, "Brian, please, haven't you punished me enough?" It continued, "Aren't you overreacting?" And ended, "Brian, please, baby, don't leave me." The whole convoluted affair took over an hour. Harsh words were said and tears were shed on both sides, but not once did I hear her admit she was wrong or say she was sorry. I left her devastated, but more certain than ever that I still loved her and wanted her in my life. Despite all her flaws, and everyone has them, even me, I could think of many more qualities to love her for. As much as I didn't want to, I made an appointment with a divorce attorney. It seemed like the magic parachute wasn't going to open for me, and all I had to do was wait for the inevitable end. The lawyer must have been immune to all these feelings by now. He barely took his attention away from his desk while I explained what I wanted. It was the hardest hour of my life. He reminded me of the time I had to ask the vet to put my old dog out of his misery. Euthanasia was exactly what I was asking for. I wanted a peaceful solution to our marriage, but that is far from what I got. When Sherry was handed the papers, I was hit from all sides. "I can't believe it, Brian. Why? Why are you doing this?" she screamed. "You know why, Sherry. And if you still don't understand that, there's nothing left to save," I replied sadly. "Honey, no, don't do this to us. I'll do anything you want, just tell me," she sobbed. My heart was breaking as I heard her pleading for help. I felt like a complete bastard, but I couldn't live like I used to. I used to almost always avoid fights. It might seem to some that I still do that now, but it's really not like that. I was fighting for my marriage in an unconventional way. We both needed change to survive. We needed to cure the disease, not treat the symptoms. If I gave in to the pressure, the germ that was eating away at the core of our union would only grow stronger and eventually kill the host. Sherry, to her credit, fought the divorce relentlessly. She did not fight the proposed 50-50 agreement. She refused to accept the divorce under any conditions, and even though the only beneficiaries were the attorneys, I was still proud of her in a way. Lindsay was the only one of the family who stood up for me. She was the only one who now knew why I was on the road to doom that I had initiated on my own. I shared much more than just a few secrets with my sister. We talked a lot about relationship mistakes, about the good and the bad. She had spent the last few weeks doing a lot of introspection and had made some terribly difficult decisions. Her reckless behavior has undermined her love for Ray. She told me that her cheating had cost her dearly, and she had lost respect for him. Although she realized that confessing to Ray could lead to the breakup of her family, she was obligated to do it for the sake of their marriage because she had to be honest. Lindsay's decision made me question my own honesty. Am I too much like Sherry, winning at all costs? No, absolutely not. While it may seem so at first glance, it wasn't about winning or who was right or wrong. It was about responsibility and the willingness to accept it. I finally realized why Sherry was acting the way she always had. It occurred to me when I was talking to Lindsay. Sherry and my sister were very much alike. They were both spoiled children and always did things their own way. It wasn't conscious anger, but stemmed from traits learned as children. Pouty lips and crying always got them the results they wanted. Simply put, no one ever took a firm stand and never told them no. So, I took a firm stand. I finally decided to say no. Would Sherry understand? I realized that if she didn't, I could never live with her. No matter how much I loved her or needed her, I couldn't go back to her on my knees. As the weeks passed, my hope melted away. Stalemate is the best way to describe how our fight ended. Lindsay and Ray were beginning to have serious relationship difficulties. When she finally confessed everything to Ray, he exploded and kicked her out. Things looked very bleak for a while, but Lindsay moved forward. She took responsibility and repented. At least now they were talking again, which I can't say for Sherry and me. The last time I met with Sherry was at her request. "Please, Brian, it doesn't have to end this way," she begged me. It was hard to listen to her pleas. I knew all along that if I told her what I wanted, she would do it. But I also knew how empty those words would be. "You know how much I love you. Please, baby, give me a chance," she yelled. It seemed like she was close to the right one, but it never hit the mark. Just 2 words, and I would have given her that chance. If she could say, "I'm sorry," I would immediately call off our divorce. Brian, can you hear me? Do you want any of these pictures?" she asked, standing next to me. "No, they're yours," I almost whispered. "You can keep them." I stared at the wall, unable to see anything. It was empty inside me. This was it, wasn't it? All that was left of something I'd always considered special and sacred. I felt like... It's hard to explain. Like a guy who killed himself and his soul is standing next to his body, looking down and wondering if there was another way out. A way out. A way to make things right, and now... It's too late, isn't it? The gun is still smoking, but the wound is too deep to even try to stop the blood flowing out. It's too bloody late. "I'm sorry, Brian. Please forgive me," Sherry whispered. "It's too late, isn't it? Or is it? Maybe it's never too late to say those words,